Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I think
Good
we
evening.
should start. It's already 9:03, I think. Pawan, you stop sharing your thing.
Okay, sir.
Start sharing. Good evening, Dr. Ramakrishna.
Sir, my screen is visible, sir.
Not yet. It is now. Good evening, Professor Gurushantappa. Good evening, Dr. Ramakrishna. Good evening, Srikanth.
Good evening, good evening.
See the class on pancreatitis today. Chronic pancreatitis, we have already discussed acute pancreatitis. Now the chronic version of pancreatitis. So chronic pancreatitis has its own specific problems and difficult management of these patients. And many of them, are your long-standing patients. They become very chronic. They suffer with a lot of pain and a lot of other problems. So it needs a very calculated and clear approach. There are very good evidence now how to manage these things. So we'll go through these things, and now let us ask Pawan to start sharing the screen and start presenting.
Sir, now my screen is not visible, sir.
No, it is not visible. At least to me, it's not visible.
It's not visible.
What's happening, Pawan? Start sharing the screen.
Sir, now it is okay, sir.
Abdul.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Sure.
There is a half of the screen showing in the,
So it's from his side, sir.
so you can't do anything.
I cannot do anything.
Okay.
on this.
Because there is a lot of the participants on the right hand side, and then this half screen.
Sir, you have to drag it actually, sir, from your screen. Between those screens, you can drag it. Minimize that thing of participants. You have to minimize that. You need to be able to see full.
It's individualized, sir. Every computer.
Okay, start.
Sir, am I visible? Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Pawan from Sagar Hospital, first year DNB resident. So, today we are going to discuss on chronic pancreatitis. Chronic pancreatitis is a progressive inflammatory disease which is associated with irreversible destruction of the pancreatic tissue and with fibrosis. It is characterized by severe pain, which is commonly seen in the upper abdominal area over the epigastrium and in the right subcostal region. In early stages of pancreatitis, there is a recurrent pain due to frequent attacks of acute pancreatitis, whereas in later stages of chronic pancreatitis, it is due to exocrine and endocrine pancreatic insufficiency. The incidence of the chronic pancreatitis is more common in men when compared to women in a ratio of 4:1, and it occurs in most common in 40 years. When compared to in southern India, the prevalence of chronic pancreatitis is much higher, that is around 100 to 200 new cases are detected per 1 lakh population over a year, when compared with the European countries, in which there is 2 to 10 new cases per 1 lakh population per year. So the chronic pancreatitis, the risk factors are categorized into um, toxic risk factors, in which it contains alcohol, tobacco, hypercalcemia secondary to hyperparathyroidism, dietary causes, and hyperlipidemia and chronic renal failure, and idiopathic risk factors and genetic risk factors like cationic trypsinogen and anionic trypsinogen mutations and SPINK1 mutation, and cystic fibrosis, transmembrane conduction regulator, and chymotrypsinogen C mutation. Autoimmune risk factors, recurrent and severe acute pancreatitis, obstruction risk factors like pancreatic devism due to impaired drainage of the pancreatic juices, and sphincter of OD dysfunction, annular pancreas, malignant obstruction of the pancreatic duct, and primary pancreatic duct stones, choledochoceles. The image in the slide shows various etiological factors of the pancreatitis and their percentages, in which the idiopathic pancreatitis contributes around 42%, followed by genetic risk factors showing 24%. Classification of the pancreatitis, chronic pancreatitis, based on the etiology into chronic calcific pancreatitis, which is also known as chronic lithogenic pancreatitis. Majority of the calcific chronic pancreatitis is due to alcoholic intake, and stones and parenchymal calcification can develop in other risk factors like hereditary pancreatitis, tropical pancreatitis, hyperlipidemia, hypercalcemia, drug-induced and idiopathic pancreatitis. Whereas in chronic obstructive pancreatitis, it is due to chronic inflammatory changes, causes compression of the ductal system due to any pancreatic tumor, gallstones, post-traumatic scars, and inadequate duct caliber in case of pancreatic devism that leads to diffuse fibrosis of the pancreatic tissue. In chronic inflammatory pancreatitis, it is characterized by diffuse fibrosis of the pancreas with loss of acinar elements, with the infiltration of the mononuclear cells throughout the gland. In case of chronic autoimmune pancreatitis, which is characterized by non-obstructive infiltrative disease with fibrosis and mononuclear infiltrations. And it is associated with some autoimmune diseases like Sjogren's syndrome, rheumatoid arthritis, and type 1 diabetes mellitus. In case of asymptomatic pancreatic fibrosis, the pancreatic fibrosis is seen in asymptomatic individuals in elderly patients, in which there is a diffused perilobar fibrosis and loss of SNR elemental cells in pancreas. So coming to the pathology of the pancreatitis, normally we know that the pancreatic enzymes are which are inactive form, which is activated by the trypsinogen into active forms. If the trypsinogen is prematurely activated within the pancreas, that leads to activation of the all proteolytic enzymes and leads to digestion of the pancreas and leads to pancreatitis. This thing to be inhibited by the SPINK1 gene, which is normally present. Whereas in case of hereditary pancreatitis, the cationic trypsinogen gene, because of the gain of functional mutation, leads to a degradation of the resistant form of trypsin that leads to autodigestion of the pancreas, that leads to chronic pancreatitis. Whereas in case of loss of functional mutation in the SPINK1 gene also predisposes to idiopathic pancreatitis. So coming to the pathophysiology of the pancreas, chronic pancreatitis, in which the normal pancreas.
Pawan, just a second.
Hello, sir.
I think Ravi Shankar sir's issue with the phone, with the computer. Just a second. We'll just confirm. Ravi Shankar sir? Okay, so continue, Pawan.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming to the pathophysiology of the chronic pancreatitis, in which the toxic metabolites like alcohol, which causes oxidative stress and leads to free radical release, leads to damage of the membranes and subsequent expression of the cytokines like interleukin 1, interleukin 8. So, and leads to macrophage and lymphocyte and neutrophil infiltrations. And there is also profibrinogen cytokine that is released by the satellite cells, which causes increased deposition of the collagen that leads to fibrosis. So the various clinical features of the chronic pancreatitis, the main thing is the patient presented with pain, which is typically.
Pathogenesis, there are so many hypotheses. Now, what are those hypotheses?
Sir, alcohol-induced hypothesis. Alcohol causes how the pancreatitis, and hereditary pancreatitis, how it is presented as.
They are all etiologies. What are the hypotheses in the pathogenesis?
Don't know, sir.
Anyone? Senior PG? What is protein plug hypothesis? What is the oxidative stress hypothesis? What is toxic metabolic
oxidative stress? Then it is because of reactive byproducts of oxidase activity, which will cause chronic reflux of bile into pancreatic ducts.
All three hypotheses you should know. In the pathogenesis, protein plug hypothesis, the pancreatic duct is blocked by the proteinaceous lithogenic pancreatic fluid, over which calcium deposit occurs, leading to the blockage of the duct.
Yes.
That is, next is oxidative stress, and the other is toxic metabolic hypothesis, where alcohol directly causes damage to the
acinar cells.
Proceed.
Okay, sir. So, the clinical features of the pancreatitis, in which the patient presented typically with pain, which is morely seen on the epigastric region and in right subcostal region, and may radiating to back. And Some patients may present with maldigestive features like weight loss and sterotoria, which is a features of exocrine pancreatic insufficiency. And some patients were presented with diabetes, which is a feature of endocrine pancreatic insufficiency. And some patients along with pain, nausea and vomiting, and is there, and there is a loss of sleep also will be there.
Pawan, stop here.
Yes, sir.
Anybody can answer this question. What is the mechanism of pain in chronic pancreatitis? Ajit?
Sir, there are first will be, sir, because of the inflammatory first will be inflammation, then
Yes.
obstruction, sir, ductal obstruction due to stenosis or either due to stones, and third will be direct pressure, sir.
Like
What
pseudocyst,
pressure?
like pseudocyst, sir.
Yeah, pseudosis and
No, pseudosis does not produce pain. It causes obstructive symptoms. The first two key explanations are correct. Inflammation of the pancreas, which causes inflammation of the nerves innervating the gangland, and the other is the increased pressure due to calculi in the main pancreatic duct. These are the two main.
Okay.
Pressure causes obstructive symptoms.
Okay, continue.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, that they mentioned that it is more common in South India, and the cause is given that cassava. Any other name for cassava, or is it similar to sweet potato, sir?
No. The more common in South India is because of the tropical pancreatitis. More common in South India.
That is the cassava. That is not sweet potato. Cassava is different.
Tropical pancreatitis, that is the main cause of increased incidence in South India.
South India.
Okay.
See, the chronic pancreatitis pain, as I think Srikanth has very well described, is initially because of the inflammation. Then there is thickening of the nerves, and then there is formation of neuroma neuritis, which which becomes persistent, and that is the main reason why this pain is chronic. And once that is the reason why the thinking of management of acute pancreatitis is changed. I think we'll discuss it when we come to the management, but chronic pain is once it is established, it becomes very difficult to treat. And that the reason is formation of neural networks within the pancreatic substance, which are self-perpetuating. So they keep on the circuit is complete, and the pain will be present constantly. And even with the opioids and other analgesia, the pain relief is only 55 to 60%. So which is why you have to be extremely careful about management of pain. Okay, continue.
Okay, sir. So chronic pancreatitis can be classified into 4 stages, in which the first stage, that is preclinical stage, in which the patient may be asymptomatic or with uncharacteristic symptoms, or recurrent acute pancreatitic episodic pains without definite signs of chronic pancreatitis. And third stage is patient having recurrent episodes of pancreatitis with definite signs of chronic pancreatitis, and the imaging modality shows ductal dilatations and pancreatic calcifications. And the final stage is there is an absence or decreased frequency of pain with evidence of exocrine and endocrine pancreatic insufficiencies. So coming to the various laboratory investigations.
Can you go to the previous slide, please?
Yes, sir.
Why there is less pain in the final stage? Absence of pain or decreased frequency of pain?
So because of fibrosis and also.
No. Fibrosis, anyone? What is burning out of pancreas? That is the end stage where all the parenchyma is destroyed.
Destruction,
Understand?
complete destruction.
Complete destruction of the pancreas, so the patient will have no pain. That is called burning out of pancreas or end-stage pancreatitis. So it is an ominous sign, not a favorable sign in chronic pancreatitis.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, proceed.
Yes, sir. So coming to the various laboratory investigations, starting with the uh, measurement of the pancreatic enzymes and pancreatic polypeptides in the blood, and measurements of the pancreatic exocrine secretions through direct measurement of the enzymes of the pancreas, that is the pancreatic amylase and lipase. That is, the lipase is more specific to the pancreatitis and bicarbonate levels, whereas in the case of indirect measurements of pancreatic exocrine secretion is through binturomide test, which is
1 second. Why are these investigations being done? What are the
sir,
tests to diagnose chronic pancreatitis? You tell first, no? These are the tests for pancreatic insufficiency, no?
yes sir.
Now, what are the tests to diagnose chronic pancreatitis?
So inflammatory mark.
You have any other slides?
Sir, radiological investigations and
Yeah,
others.
you should tell the diagnosis of pancreatitis first, and then these are all the tests for this thing
Pancreatic
insufficiency.
Pancreatic dysfunction.
Yes
Yeah.
sir. Yes sir. And next slides are and all radiological investigations
Okay.
to diagnose the pancreatitis. Sir.
Okay.
Yes sir. And so for the measurement of pancreatic exocrine. Yes sir. Yes sir. Sir.
Continue on.
So measurement of the indirect measurements to find out the pancreatic exocrine secretion, like binturomide test. So the binturomide is a peptide which is broken down by the pancreatic enzyme chymotrypsin, so which produces para-aminobenzoic acid. So the levels of the para-aminobenzoic acid and its metabolites excreted in the urine is used to measure the chymotrypsin activity. Whereas in the case of Schilling test, so in the case of cobalamin absorption, the pancreatic protease is destroyed. The pancreatic protease breaks the cobalamin R binder, so which is used to find the indirect measure of the pancreatic protease levels. And fecal fat, chymotrypsinogen and elastase concentrations, and carbon 14 Olin absorption tests are used in the indirect measures for chronic exocrine secretions. So coming to the various radiological investigations of the chronic pancreatitis, like abdominal X-ray, transabdominal ultrasound, CT, ERCP, MRCP, and endoscopic ultrasound. So the ultrasound, it is the initial imaging modality and it is an operator dependent, and the image in this slide shows various ductal dilatations of the pancreas with cystic changes and heterogeneous texture. And CT scan is also used in the diagnosis of the pancreatic tissue. Helical CT and CT angiography are used, which helps in the visualization of the nature and extent of the disease and their relation with the surrounding structures and with the lesion, and it shows ductal dilatation, calcific disease, cystic changes and inflammatory changes, and it can detect the anomalies of the pancreas. So the image in this slide shows the dilatation of the pancreatic duct with the intraparenchymal calcifications.
Just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Just a minute.
Yes, sir.
Ajit,
Yes, sir.
what is do you know the protocol for CT scan of the pancreas?
Okay.
Saurabh? Saurabh? Abdul? Anybody else? Janani, Hari?
The pancreas protocol is a non-contrast phase, so that the calcifications are seen better. That's what
Okay. No,
I
not
don't.
just that.
Okay, sir.
I think you should all read, but there is pancreatic protocol. The reason for that is if you don't do it according to the protocol, that is you usually need to use a triphasic, the pattern, that is to look at the, vascular phase, venous phase, and as you said, the non-contrast phase. Because if you don't do it according to the protocol, you are likely to miss small lesions if they are present. So, and then see the difficulty in chronic pancreatitis is because chronic pancreatitis is a pre-malignant condition for pancreatic malignancy, and sometimes they can coexist also. So, unless you are able to differentiate, and that it is extremely difficult, I understand, because even on histology sometimes it is very difficult, and many times chronic pancreatitis and malignancy are confused with each other. But you have to do everything possible to ensure that as much information is gleaned with with radiologic investigation as possible. So which is why you use the pancreatic protocol. Srikanth asks a very relevant question. What is the normal diameter of the pancreatic duct? Anybody?
Sir, 3 to 5 mm, sir.
What is considered dilated pancreatic duct?
Uh, Sir, more than 10 mm,
6
my
mm.
friend.
Huh?
More than 10 mm, sir.
No. I think you're confusing it with CBD.
Okay.
So you are actually, Hari, what you said initially is right. 3 millimeters up to 3 millimeters is the normal pancreatic ductal diameter. Anything 5 and above is considered abnormal.
Okay, sir.
Okay,
Okay, sir.
right. Continue.
Yes, sir. So, coming to ERCP, it is a gold standard procedure, and it is both diagnostic and therapeutic value. And the risk of ERCP produced pancreatitis is in approximately 5% of the patients, and it is used in the patients in whom the diagnosis is unclear, despite of using the other imaging modalities, and it is also used in patients in whom diagnostic or therapeutic maneuver is specifically indicated. So MRI scan, it has two modes, T1 and T2 mode, in which it can
Pawan,
get.
go to the previous.
Yes, sir.
Why it is gold standard?
Sir, because we can diagnose the disease and we can able to treat the disease, sir.
Other investigation also you can diagnose, no? CT scan.
But CT scan, we are not able to therapeutic management.
Huh? We are not talking about therapeutic area. We are talking about investigations.
Yes, sir.
What is the sensitivity of all the other investigation? What is the sensitivity of ERCP? What is the specificity of ultrasound, computer CT scan, ERCP?
Anybody?
The CT scan is 95%.
CT scan.
Yes, sir.
CT scan 95%. Why ERCP is gold standard then? ERCP is 90% sensitive and 100% specific. That's why.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
CT scan says some 70-80% sensitivity. That's all. So early stages, CT scan and ultrasound are not helpful. Only ERCP is helpful.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
What is the Cambridge criteria of chronic pancreatitis based on ERCP?
Sir, sir, next slide it will be there. Sir.
Okay. Proceed.
Yes,
You should explain
yes,
go
sir.
back. Explain the ERCP, man.
Explain this picture.
Yeah, picture.
Okay, sir. So this is the
Findings.
Endoscope. There's the endoscope.
Endoscope.
Side endoscope. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, this is the pancreatic duct, sir.
What is that called classically? I think if you have a full picture, it will be easy to chain of lake appearance.
Chain of lake appearances, sir. Yes, sir.
This looks like an R1 pancreatic duct. There's no calculate. There are no filling defects now here.
Sir. Here. This and all.
Chain of
calcium.
lake.
Is it dilated?
This is normal diameter, Alvado.
Yes, sir.
Chain of flakes means you should have
Dilated
appearance with strictures with radiolucent shadows for strictures. You should be there.
Yes, sir.
This is uniform.
This is probably mildly dilated. I don't think it is
early pancreatitis should be.
early pancreatitis. Okay, continue, man.
Yes, sir.
And how this ERCP induces pancreatitis in 5% of patients?
But sir, while doing stunting and also any injury.
Not just stenting, man. Even
Yes,
diagnostic ERCP also causes. How? Anybody? Ajit? Is Saurav there or is he not there? Saurav?
He's there.
Sir, I'm
Why
here,
is he
sir.
not answering?
Sir, I'm here, sir.
How does ERCP cause pancreatitis?
Sir, so while we are doing the procedure for ERCP, we will do a pre-cut for going into
Not pre-cut.
Sir, that is the sphincter dysfunction will happen, sir.
Contrast injection.
Pre-cut is used for therapeutic purposes, not diagnostic.
Ajit? Abdul?
Because of injury, sir.
Sir, contrast injection, sir. That
See, I think there are two mechanisms. One is, when you are doing a normal ERCP, even for biliary disease, the problem is that pancreatic duct is in direct, sort of alienation with as soon as you enter, by default, you enter the pancreatic duct. So you have to be careful. So if you enter the pancreatic duct and inject the dye, the pressure with which you inject the dye, one is the contrast causes inflammation. Second, the pressure causes inflammation of the pancreatic duct, and that is why you get pancreatitis. And if you are doing a therapeutic procedure, again, because you enter the pancreatic duct, that again, if you stent and things like that, because you are interfering with the pancreatic ductal anatomy, and that can cause pancreatitis. So it is the pressure, it is the contrast.
And prior history of ERCP also you should ask.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Continue, man.
Yes, sir. So, coming to the MRI scan, it has two modes, that is T1 and T2 mode, and which is a non-invasive modality, and it shows it helps in disclosing fluid-filled ducts and cystic lesions, and effective in screening in the ductal anomalies. So the image in the slide shows this pancreatic duct, main pancreatic duct, with some calcifications with dilatation, and it can ability to image obstructed ducts that are not opacified by the ERCP injections. So coming to the Cambridge classification of the pancreatic morphology in the case of chronic pancreatitis, starting from the normal in various levels, starting from normal to severe mode, based on the findings of ERCP findings and CT and ultrasound findings. So in normal, there is no abnormal small ducts branch ducts, whereas in severe showing any of this main pancreatic duct changes with the cyst less than 10 mm with filling defects is seen.
No, go back.
Sir.
Please, I think you have not explained this properly. You have to explain this properly because it is very important. Because based on this, your treatment modalities also are planned. Ajit?
Yes, sir.
Do you know Cambridge classification?
Yes, sir.
Please
Sir,
explain.
there are 5 grades, sir. On normal, equivocal, mild, moderate, severe. In till up to mild, the main pancreatic duct will be normal, and side branches less than more than 3 side abnormal branches in mild, and main pancreatic duct will be abnormal as well as more than 3 abnormal side branches in moderate, and in severe the main pancreatic duct will be abnormal along with cyst more than 10 mm, obstruction or filling effects or severe dilatation, and more than 3 abnormal side branches, sir.
Okay. Right. See, Pawan, did you understand?
Yes, sir.
So the main pancreatic duct will be normal till mild.
Yes, sir.
Moderate and severe, there will be main pancreatic ductal changes in addition to side branches.
Side branches.
Okay. Okay, continue.
Endoscopic ultrasound, in which the images are obtained through high frequency transducer in a range of 7.5 to 12.5 megahertz, and it can be able to evaluate the subtle changes, that is 2 to 3 mm structures within the pancreas, and it can able to detect the neoplasms in settings of chronic inflammation, and it can able to detect the intraductal lesions and subtle ductal abnormalities and cystic lesions, which can be recognizable by endoscopic ultrasound. So the image in the slide shows this that is the ductal dilatation of the pancreas. So the endoscopic ultrasound features in chronic pancreatitis that shows in ductal changes and their implications. If the size of the duct more than 3 mm in the endoscopic ultrasound suggesting of the ductal dilatation, if the pancreatic duct is tortuous, that is ductal irregularity suggesting of, and if there is a intraductal echogenic foci suggesting of stones or calcifications. Echogenic ductal wall implicates ductal fibrosis. If side branch ectasia is there, there implicates periductal fibrosis. In pancreatic changes, if there is an homogeneous echo pattern is observed, so it implicates edema of the pancreas, and if there is a reduced echogenic foci around 1 to 3 mm, it's suggesting of edema, whereas enhanced echogenic foci, that is suggesting of the calcifications, if there is a prominent interlobular septate or lobular outer gland margins suggesting of the fibrosis, and large echo poor cavities more than 5 mm suggesting of pseudocyst. So coming to the various complications of the chronic pancreatitis, that is intrapancreatic complications and extrapancreatic complications.
Just a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes,
before
sir.
we go to complication.
Yes, sir.
Anybody, starting with Pavan, which is the investigation of choice in early chronic pancreatitis? Srikantas.
Sir, ultrasound, sir.
No. Ultrasound cannot be. No, it is the first investigation. But what is the investigation of choice?
CT, sir.
No. I think CT, as Srikanth has said very clearly.
ERCP, sir. ERCP.
No, but ERCP, if you do early, I think ERCP, but I think MRCP probably is because even the changes that are not visible on ERCP are visible on MRCP. So I think MRCP will be the initial investigation of choice. The CRCP is done when you are contemplating therapeutic procedures.
MRCP and endoscopic ultrasound.
Endoscopic ultrasound, yes. Is Professor Gurshanta Pade Rajit Abdul?
Just a second, sir.
I saw
No,
his
sir.
name.
No, he is not there.
He's not there. Okay.
He's
Right.
not there, sir.
And Dr. Ramakrishna?
He's there, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am here.
Sir, your
Just
views
listening.
on which is the early investigation of choice?
Yeah, if available, endoscopic ultrasound is the first, sir. Otherwise, MRI is the best.
Yeah, MRCP and endoscopic
Yes.
ultrasound, because they will give you virtually all the information you need to know. Early ductal dilatation, even presence of lesion inside the duct will also be picked up by the endoscopic ultrasound and MRCP. So they are the investigation of choice. Okay.
Sir, one doubt, sir.
Yeah.
But somewhere, sir, they mentioned here endoscopic ultrasound may not be adequate screening for or picked up early changes because there will be absence of significant parenchymal or ductal scarring. Is it true, sir? In that case, how it can be a early?
No, that is why we said that MRCP will pick up virtually all the changes that can happen even before ERCP picks it up.
Okay.
But in terms of the the ductal anatomy, ductal dilatation, presence of intraductal pathology, the endoscopic ultrasound is good. So you have to use a combination of both.
Okay, sir.
Okay, continue.
The complications of the chronic pancreatitis is divided into intrapancreatic causes and the extrapancreatic causes. The intrapancreatic causes like
Not causes, man. Intrapancreatic
complications. Yes, sir.
and
Complications are pseudocyst formation, duodenal or gastric obstruction, thrombosis of the splenic vein, abscess formation, perforation and erosion into the visceral arteries, and inflammation of the mass of the head of the pancreas leads to, that is, bile duct stenosis, portal vein thrombosis, duodenal obstruction.
Abscess formation, go to the previous slide.
Yes, sir.
Abscess formation, perforation, there are complication, acute pancreatitis, erosion of the artery, all those things.
mainly acute.
They're not
Mainly
acute.
you see chronic. Yeah.
Here there will be fibrosis already.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Continue.
And ductal strictures and stones, ductal hypertension and dilatation, pancreatic carcinomas, and extra pancreatic complications like pancreatic ductal leak with ascites or fistula, pseudocyst extension beyond lesser sac into the mediastinum, retroperitoneum, lateral pericolic space, pelvic and adjacent viscera.
Okay.
1 second. Why do you get pseudocyst in chronic pancreatitis? This is a complication of acute pancreatitis. So go to the previous slide. Next slide. Why do you get fistula or ascites in chronic pancreatitis? Anyone? Why did you? Pancreatic ductal leak, why do you get in chronic pancreatitis?
Ajit?
Sir, last class we had discussed pancreatic ascites is due to the stenosis or obstruction of the pancreatic duct, sir.
That is in you get in acute pancreatitis, not in. chronic pancreatitis, everything will be fibrous, thickened. It will not perforate. Fistula, to which part it will develop? Fistula. Fistula what? Again, pseudocyst is a complication of acute pancreatitis which matures into chronic pseudocyst. Is it not?
I think you are right, Srikanth. Majority of situations, the acute pancreatitis, you develop large pseudocysts. In patients with chronic pancreatitis, you develop smaller pseudocysts. Wherever there is pancreatic, the ductal inflammation, there is maybe some ductal disruption, and then that
leak will
forms
be
smaller
minimal because of
pseudocysts.
the wall fibrosis.
Yeah. So you don't usually see, and if at all, for example, there is a stone or impacting in the mid pancreatic duct or distal pancreatic duct, the pressure in the proximal duct may be so high that it may disrupt, and that can cause pancreatic fistula. Again, Srikanth is right. Complications such as these are more common with acute pancreatitis rather than chronic. Chronic pancreatitis, the main problem is pain. Second main problem is pancreatic insufficiency. Third main
I
problem
am not
is
mentioned pancreatic insufficiency.
pancreatic insufficiency, exocrine and endocrine. And then fourth is presence of pancreatic mass lesion and malignancy. So these are the main complications. Okay, continue.
So the treatment of the chronic pancreatitis is mainly symptomatic and based on the cardinal features, that is pain, exocrine and endocrine insufficiencies. And there are various treatment modalities and medical interventions and surgical interventions. So the therapeutic strategies for treating the chronic pancreatitis is, first of all, the patient has to be stop alcohol and the cigarette consumption, and we have to treat the pain and exocrine and endocrine insufficiencies, nutritional support, and if all these modalities, if the pain is not subsided, we can go for surgeries. So for the treatment of pain, pain should be treated with conventional NSAIDs like acetaminophen. If it is not relieved by this, we can use opiates may be necessary. So the strategies for the pain relief includes inhibition of the pancreatic enzyme secretion by using pancreatic enzyme therapy and antioxidants, and invasive approaches such as celiac plexus block and endoscopic procedures and surgical drainage procedures and surgical resections may also be used. So for treating of the exocrine insufficiency of the pancreas, so the patient presented with the maldigestive symptoms like diarrhea and steatorrhea, in which the fecal fat content is around 7 grams per day and there is a weight loss is there. So the patient should be taken with meals, enteric coated formulations, and 25,000 to 50,000 units of lipase per meal are recommended, along with high doses or combination with proton pump inhibitors may also be required. So in the case of treating of the endocrine insufficiency, that is the diabetes, the therapeutic goal is first to avoid the hypoglycemia, because in this there is a coexisting deficiency of the glucagon is also present, so there is an increased risk of hypoglycemic attacks. So in which we have regularly used simple insulin regimens, and patient have to be stopped alcohol intaking. In treating of the chronic pancreatitis induced diabetes, the acarbose and insulin sensitizers are ineffective. So the nutritional management, there is no specific.
Just a minute, Pawan.
Yes, sir.
There are two questions.
Yes, sir.
One is, what is azoturia? And second is, what is brittle diabetes? What is azoturia? Anybody? Abdul?
Sir, discharge of protein degradation products, sir.
Nitrogen.
Nitrogenous substances.
Where?
Excessive discharge in the feces or urine.
Urinal.
Srikanth?
Yeah, it is the protein loss in the fecal matter.
Fecal matter. That is azoturia, not in urine. Okay. And what is brittle diabetes? Ajit, you only answer that. I don't think Pawan knows it.
Sir, there will be cyclical hypoglycemia as well as hyperglycemia because along with the insulin, the glucagon production will also be affected.
Yeah. So it is, the diabetes is not stable. It will be up and down. There may be episodes of hypoglycemia also, and that is why it's called brittle diabetes. Okay, continue.
So the nutritional treatment, like there is no specific pancreatic diet. So the patient have to be.
There is specific pancreatic diet, man.
Sorry, sir. There is a specific pancreatic diet, and patient have to.
What is that specific pancreatic diet?
Sir, that means, sir, restriction of the dietary fat intake and sir.
No. There's highest protein, high carbohydrate diet, and 30% of the nutrition should come from the fat. That is the recommended in pancreatic exocrine insufficiency.
Yes, sir. So
okay, carry on.
How you advise your patient about this pancreatic diet?
Sir,
What he should eat in the daily, this one?
Yes, sir.
What type of food stuff he should eat? Sir just now told protein rich, this, that.
Protein
so,
rich,
for a common man, you will tell like that only. You eat high protein and high carbohydrate.
Not like that, sir. It's
then
like
what you will tell?
Eggs. Egg
Eggs contain fat, man.
Sir, without egg yolk, sir. Egg albumin, sir.
You tell fruits, vegetables, whole grains, low fat dairy, milk.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. And intake of smaller but more frequent meals are recommended. And whereas in the patients refractory to treatment and in severe maldigestive patients, there is a restriction of the dietary fat and administration of medium chain triglycerides is indicated.
Why?
Sir, because there is a pancreatic exocrine insufficiency like lipase enzymes and all.
Then why should you give medium chain triglycerides? You have only written, you should know the reason, Alma.
Yes, sir. It's a triglycerides.
You should assume each and every sentence they will ask questions.
Yes, sir.
Medium chain triglycerides absorption does not require lipase.
Okay, sir.
Understand?
Yes, sir.
So it is directly absorbed into the portal vein. So it does not require any enzyme requirement. That's why it is recommended. Okay, continue.
Yes, sir. And deficiency of fat soluble vitamins are found mainly in patients who are consuming alcohol and who may need vitamin supplementation. So, the interventional treatments of complications mainly done in the symptomatic patients in case of the ductal stone or pancreatic or biliary tract stenosis or pseudosis. We can do endoscopically therapeutic management for the treatment of such complications. So indications of the surgeries is if there is a failure of the medical therapy or complications such as bile duct obstruction, duodenal obstruction, and suspected pancreatic cancers and failure of endoscopic therapy in patients with intractable pain. So,
Okay, just stop here.
yes,
See
sir.
the conventional Ajit
Yes,
or
sir.
Saurav. Saurav has been very silent today. Saurav,
Yes, sir.
do you agree with this approach? What is called as the step-up approach? That is, you treat the pain, you treat exocrine, endocrine so insufficiency, then you use
Yes, sir.
endoscopic procedure, and then you use surgery. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
What is the conventional step-up procedure? So why, if you agree with that, why do you agree with that?
Sir, in cases of chronic pancreatitis, the main complaints which will be mainly pain and the side effects of pancreatic insufficiency. So in those cases, we have to, if we can manage the patient by just addressing the pain by medications and the pancreatic insufficiency by the treatments that he already mentioned, then we can avoid other complicated surgeries. Only in cases where there is clear indication for intervention, then we can go for intervention, because in certain cases, even for pain management, if you go for radical surgical intervention, sometimes even after that pain may not be subsiding.
Abdul, do you agree with that?
Sir,
But I
there are some
like to-
papers which suggest that early surgery in cases
better.
of dilated pancreatic duct or in other cases is far better compared to step-up procedure.
See, you have to answer it in a more intelligent manner. See, the thing is, investigations have to show, is there ductal dilatation? Is there pancreatic head mass? So if you have, as Srikanth said, if there is significant fibrosis of pancreas and not much of ductal dilatation, then, symptomatic treatment with pain, pain management, endocrine and exocrine supplementation, and these things will help. In patients who have had ductal dilatation, ductal stones, ductal hypertension, in patients who have pancreatic head mass, which is the main reason for the severe pain they have, such patients, now there is a new one ESCAPE trial, which is reported in 2019, and early results were reported in 2018, and the late reports have come in the JAMA, which indicates that early intervention is significantly beneficial in terms of pain management, in terms of control of the exocrine and endocrine insufficiencies, and also prevention of progression to pancreatic malignancy. So, but these are about 88 patients, so they need much bigger trial to actually show. This is a randomized control trial called ESCAPE. So the ESCAPE trial has shown that the step-up approach may not be beneficial in all patients. So you have to tailor make or customize the treatment. As we said, there are three things. One is the presence of ductal dilatation, ductal stones, ductal hypertension. Second is pancreatic head mass in the body and neck region. And third one is significant fibrosis and shrinkage of pancreas. So in three different situations, you have to, the treatment option should be different. Okay, so the step-up approach has been challenged, and also they have shown that there are various randomized trials and various meta-analysis which has shown that the surgical management in terms of chronic pain management and other complications, surgical management is far better in terms of pain control, which is only seen in about 35 to 40% in patients who have had endoscopic treatment, compared to about 75 to 80, coming up to 90% in patients who have surgery. Even though this figure falls after 2 years, still it is about 25 to 35% better compared to the endoscopic procedures. So surgery has come back again as main stay of treatment of chronic pancreatitis. So that is, as far as surgeons are concerned, it is a very heartening thing. We should know these things. Okay. Right, Pawan, tell us what are the surgical procedures?
Yes, sir. So there are various surgical procedures which are broadly divided into drainage procedures and resection procedures. Among the drainage procedures include Pustow procedure, which is a longitudinal pancreatico-jejunostomy in which there is we do resection of the tail of the pancreas.
When do you do drainage procedure? When do you do resection procedure?
So, when there is a ductal dilatation with intraductal calcifications and also.
Yeah. When there is ductal dilatation, you do drainage procedure.
Yes, sir.
When there is no ductal dilatation and when there is a mass in the head, you go for resective procedure.
Resection procedures.
Okay, I think that is the main.
You have line diagrams for this?
Yes, sir.
Show that.
Okay.
Okay.
These are the drainage procedures of Pustow's procedure. That is in which there is a longitudinal opening made along the main pancreatic duct through the tail and body of the pancreas, then the distal end of the distal gland into the row and Y limb of the jejunum.
So this is called Rochelle-Partington procedure. Now that is called Rochelle-Partington or modified Pustow's procedure.
Modified Pustow's procedure. Yeah, where distal pancreatectomy is not done.
Not done. So you just basically you have to ligate the gastroduodenal artery because it supplies the pancreas, and ligate, otherwise you will have significant bleeding. So you ligate the gastroduodenal artery and then palpate the duct, which is invariably dilated, and you can feel the stones also sometimes, and you make a longitudinal incision over the duct and clear all the stones, and then anastomose, duct to mucosa anastomosis, and then anastomosis of the jejunum over onto the pancreas. So by doing that, it is an extremely good procedure when there is ductal dilatation with presence of stones. Okay, continue.
So, longitudinal pancreatico-jejunostomy. This is Parinston Rochelle described it is much simpler version. That is,
we already talked about this. Go to the next one.
Yes, sir.
So this is the go back. This is the Rochelle-Partington, which is the modified Pustow's procedure. In Pustow's, they would initially do tail, excision of tail, which is not done in this case. So you just do a longitudinal opening of the duct, clear out all the stones, and then do the anastomosis of the duct with the jejunum. So that is the Rochelle-Partington modified Pustow's procedure. Okay.
So coming to the resection procedure, that is Berger's procedure. This is introduced. Berger introduced the duodenal preserving pancreatic head resection. In this division of the neck of the pancreas and the removal of the head and leaving a small rim of the pancreatic tissue along with the duodenum is done.
So this has two anastomosis, the proximal and the distal pancreatico-jejunostomy.
Yes, sir.
The Berger's procedure. Okay.
And a Fraisse procedure. In Fraisse procedure, we can combine duodenal sparing resection of the pancreatic head without formal dissection of the neck of the pancreas, in which there is longitudinal pancreatico-jejunostomy of the dorsal duct. So there is a local resection of the pancreatic head with the longitudinal pancreatico-jejunostomy and complete decompression of the entire pancreatic duct with row and Y anastomosis.
Yeah.
This
is the procedure most commonly done now.
Yeah. So I think the Americans tend to use the Whipple's resection, and then the Europeans tend to use either the Berger's procedure or the Fraisse procedure. As Srikanth said, Fraisse is the most commonly performed surgical procedure. So the difference is whenever there is pancreatic ductal dilatation, you go for the Partington-Rochelle modified Pusto's procedure. If there is pancreatic head mass, which is the cause of the severe pain that these people experience, you resect the pancreatic head, what is called as a head coring, and in beggars you have to transect the pancreas at the level of the superior mesenteric vein and the portal vein. So you will have to do two anastomosis. On the other hand, you do the Fraisse procedure where you just core out the head, still retaining the duodenum, and then you do a lateral pancreaticojejunostomy, and so that which is similar to the Pusto's procedure, modified Pusto's procedure. So it has a combination of both coring of the head and also pancreaticojejunostomy.
You have not mentioned the other procedures, man. When do you do Whipple's? When do you do distal pancreatectomy? When do you do central resections?
When the entire gland is destructed, then Whipple, sir.
Entire gland.
No.
Your exam going?
Exam question correct artha ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಪ್ಪ.
Fail ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ ಹುಷಾರು. Entire gland means why you want to do Whipple's, man?
Saurav, do you want to answer that question?
Sir, actually, Whipple's, since in certain centers they are mentioning about Whipple's, sir, but
I told it already. Americans tend to prefer Whipple's.
What are the indications?
Indications for Whipple's resection.
Sir, if there is a concomitant CBD obstruction also is there, or there may be some mass detected in the head region of pancreas while doing an endoscopic ultrasound.
Yeah.
Or
so when there is suspicion of malignancy,
yes,
or concomitant pancreatic and biliary ductal obstruction, gastric outlet obstruction, such situations you have to do a Whipple's resection.
When the pancreatic duct is not dilated, when you cannot roll out CA of the head of the pancreas. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So whenever suspicion of pancreatic malignancy, you have to do a Whipple's resection.
Yes.
When do you do distal pancreatectomy?
Advantage of the European procedures is whenever there is sure that there is no doubt of malignancy, you are unnecessarily destroying the duodenal anatomy and the hormonal feedback and things that it has, which is why they preserve the duodenum. But whenever there is suspicion of malignancy, you have to do a Whipple's resection. Yes, Srikanth, you were asking another question.
What is the complication of this pancreaticojejunostomy?
Leak,
sir.
What is the definition of pancreatic fistula?
ಶ್ರೀಕಾಂತ್ ಇವ್ರಿಗಾರ್ಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಂಗಿಲ್ಲ
ಓದ್ಕೊಂಬರ್ಲಿ.
ಅದೇ so the thing is, because of the mechanisms I described before of the pancreatic pain, which is the formation of neuroma, neural network within the pancreas, and establishment of chronic pain despite proper treatment, early intervention will prevent such things from happening.
Yeah, correct.
So which is why now surgical intervention is better in terms of early amelioration of the pain and maintenance of the pain-free status of the patient. So if you do surgery, even at the end of 5 years, about 70 to 75% of these patients will be pain-free. And if they need painkillers, they will be relatively mild. You don't need opioid analgesia. But if the patients are well established with pain and pancreatic insufficiency, even if you operate on them at a later date, the improvement in their pain status and their exocrine and endocrine status will be much less. The indication for total pancreatectomy is when there is significant fibrosis, and as Srikanth said, when the gland is almost destroyed. In such patients, you can consider doing a total pancreatectomy, and in such patients you can also do what is called as islet cell transplant. It is called TPR or something like that. Total pancreatectomy with islet cell transplant. So, but again, but there are very specific indications for that.
So,
Ramakrishna sir, on your comments on the surgical indication and which is the best procedure? Abdul, is Ramakrishna there?
no, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, he's left. Okay. Srikanth,
Yeah,
Srikanth, final comments?
no,
please.
excellent procedure. Yeah, sorry, excellent presentation. Excellent.